Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have 13 tips for you to consider when purchasing a luxury handbag. So I know I've mentioned before on my channel that I do a ton of research when I'm buying a bag. I might be going overboard, but I have learned a whole lot of lessons throughout my experience buying handbags. I've been collecting handbags for a number of years now. I've learned a lot of things, most of the time the hard way. So I wanted to come on and have a discussion with you guys, talk about some of the things that I take into consideration when I'm purchasing a handbag. Because what we're all trying to do is avoid buyer's remorse. And I know that you can't always avoid this. Sometimes you're not gonna know really if a bag is going to work out for your lifestyle until you purchase it, and that is okay. But I do think that there are a few things you can take into consideration that will lower your chances of having buyer's remorse. And I'm gonna be breaking up the video a little bit by featuring some of my handbags in it just to make it not so boring, and also to give you some concrete examples of how I've used some of these tips to buy certain bags, and also of course how I've learned some of these lessons the hard way while buying some of these bags. So if you're interested in learning a few tips of things to consider when purchasing a luxury handbag, keep watching. But if you're new to my channel, my name is Anne. I make weekly fashion and lifestyle videos, and I'd love for you to consider subscribing down below. Okay guys, let's get started. Okay, so my first tip is kind of a no-brainer. It's probably something that you guys are already doing, and it may be the way you found my channel in the first place, but I think it's really important to talk about, and that is reviews, reviews, reviews. When I'm going to buy a luxury handbag, I watch a ton of reviews, guys, a ton of reviews. I think it's so important to get as much information as possible. After all, someone making one review video might mention something that is important that someone else might not mention. Someone here might be talking about a feature of the bag that's very, very important to you that isn't as important to somebody else, so maybe they won't mention it. And if you end up watching a lot of reviews and people are saying a lot of the same thing, that's good too, because then you know that you're getting a consistent message about the bag, and then you can make a purchase with a little bit more confidence. And I really think it's important to watch some reviews that really do feature pros and cons about the bag. After all of these bags are beautiful. Usually that's how we first become attracted to it, is because we see it and we love it and it looks so beautiful. So we think about purchasing, so we start watching the reviews. So you know that are already gonna be things that you love about the bag, but you need to know also some of the negatives, because you wanna know what you're getting yourself into. So I would definitely recommend looking for reviews that feature both pros and cons. Okay, so my second tip for you is to go and see the bag in person in the boutique whenever possible. And I know that this is not always a possibility, so I have a tip for you if it's not. But whenever possible, do this. I think it makes a huge, huge difference. I think that you can learn a lot about the bag by touching the canvas or the leather, trying it on your body frame. I think that that is honestly the best thing to do if it's a possibility. However, I know that this isn't always the case. I know sometimes you may live in an area where you might not have access to a certain boutique or brand. This actually happened to me recently. I went to buy a Goyard St. Louis tote. It's right here, and there's not a Goyard store in my area. I was actually pretty lucky because I had tried on this bag in the past. When I lived in San Francisco, we had a boutique there. So I had tried it on, I was able to see it and stuff. But when I went to go purchase this, I had to order it online. So I know that that's not always a possibility to go in and see it in person. So my tip for you, if you cannot go see it in person, is to search as many images as possible. And let me explain that a little bit. One of the reasons why it's so important to go in and see the bag in person is because you're wanting to see how the bag looks on your body. You want to see how it looks on your frame, the size of it, how it hangs, all those things. And so my tip for you is, and I often do this too, even though I do go into the store and see it in person, a lot of the times I still do this. And that is, I go on and I do a Google search, and I will Google the bag and I will put styled afterwards. So if I'm looking for the Goyard St. Louis, I will type in Goyard St. Louis styled, and then I will do an image search. And by adding styled to it, you'll end up seeing a lot more pictures of the bag on people's body than you will just the bag by itself. Because what I'm trying to get out of looking at all of these pictures is seeing how it hangs on a lot of different types of bodies. I think that's very important, especially if you can't try the bag on in person. I think by doing a Google search like that, seeing how it falls on a number of people's frames. I think you can learn a lot about the bag that way. And I think you can maybe get a little bit better of an idea of how it's gonna look on you. And I think that's a great tip for anybody who's interested in a bag but aren't able to go and see it in person. Okay, so my next two tips kind of go together, and they both really do involve going to see the bag in person. So the first tip I have for you is try the bag on in a variety of different sizes. So I have made the mistake in the past of going to the boutique, trying on the bag that I think I want, buying it without even trying on another size in the bag. Now, obviously some bags only come in one size, but a lot of times a bag can come in a larger size or it can come in a smaller size. And I think it's really important whenever possible to try on the larger size and the smaller size, even if you don't think that that's what you're interested in. It's just good to get a frame of reference, and also it helps you not think about it later on. You don't want to go home and go, oh, maybe I should have tried on the larger size, or maybe I should have gone for the smaller one, and I think that can happen sometimes. So my fourth tip kind of goes along with this too, and that is to try the bag on in different colors, different materials, and different hardwares. You may think that you are set on a specific color, a specific material. Maybe you're like, oh, I am die hard getting this bag in lambskin. I'm not even gonna try it on in a pebbled leather or anything like that. Or you might think, I know I'm gonna get this bag in this specific color. I don't need to try it on in any other colors. Or maybe you're like, oh, this hardware is definitely the one for me. I'm a silver hardware person. I'm definitely going for it. And that's great, but I still think that it doesn't hurt to try it on in a variety of different colors and materials. I have learned this the hard way. Hold on for a second. Okay, guys, these are my two Givenchy Antigonas. Now, this is an example of a time when I should have followed the last two tips. I first got this Givenchy Antigona Mini in the pebbled leather, and I fell in love with the color of this bag. I thought it was beautiful. I knew I wanted to get an Antigona in my collection, and I purchased this years ago. But I didn't end up trying on the larger size. I kind of thought, well, I'm a very short person. A mini bag is probably what I need to go with. And I did wear it quite a bit when I first bought it. But after a time, I was thinking, wow, maybe I should have gotten this bag in the black color. That is really what I was thinking about first, was this glossy color. And I was a little nervous about this material. I knew that I thought it was beautiful, but I wasn't sure how it was gonna wear. And to be honest, I didn't even try it on, which was a huge mistake, because I love the glossiness of this bag. I think it's beautiful. This is the size small, so it is larger than my mini Antigona. And this is definitely a case where I should have tried this bag on in this size as well, in this material and in this color, because this is really what I wanted, it turned out. And I eventually went back and I purchased this bag. Now, I will be selling the red Antigona shortly. I will be selling it to Fashion File, but yeah, it's not something that I necessarily regret, because I think I learned a lot from it, but I will say that it definitely would have been helpful if I had tried this bag on in a few different colorways and a few different sizes. So my fifth tip is for you to consider what type of bag this is going to be for you. And let me explain this a little bit. I was thinking about this, and I think that most of my bags can fall into two categories. One would be everyday bags that I can basically live in. And what I mean by that is a handbag that I can change into and maybe not even think about it for 2 weeks and still be wearing the same bag, and it's completely worked with everything that I have going on. And those are just bags that work with my lifestyle super well. And then the other category is a more of an occasion bag, or a bag that I know I'm gonna wear maybe for a certain look, to really elevate a certain outfit that maybe isn't a bag that I'm gonna wear on an everyday basis, but I love the style of it. So let me give you a couple examples of that. So this is my Palm Springs Mini. In the summertime, I wear this bag to death. I wear it all the time. I'm a pretty casual dresser in the summer. I wear a lot of sundresses and laid back outfits, and this bag just seems to go with everything. I could be wearing this bag, honestly, probably for like a month, and I wouldn't even notice that I hadn't changed out of it. And that's because it would go with all of my outfits. It's super roomy for being such a small bag. It's very comfortable, and yeah, I just love this bag. But there are other bags, again, that I know are more vacation bags. A good example of that would be my YSL clutch. And this bag is a bag that I knew when I bought it that it was going to be a special occasion bag. I knew that this was not going to be an everyday bag. It wasn't going to be a bag that would be practical for me to wear day to day, where I wouldn't have to change out of it or anything like that. And I'm okay with that because I knew that going into this bag. I knew I had enough bags in my collection that were like the Palm Springs Mini that I could literally live in and were super practical. And so I knew I had space in my collection to buy something that was a little bit more of an occasion bag. So I just think that that's something that you should consider when you're purchasing. I don't think that there is a wrong answer necessarily, but I do think that it's good to think about what occasion you're going to wear this handbag for and how it's going to fit into your life. The sixth tip I have for you is to consider what else you have in your handbag collection that ticks the same boxes as this bag. So here you're trying to figure out, is this a bag that you're getting because there is a hole in your collection where you really do have a need for it? Or is this a handbag that maybe you have a few others that kind of are in the same category? I don't think it's wrong to have a few bags that are in the same category. Like my Palm Springs Mini, I have a bunch of bags that are really great, amazing everyday bags that I could just live in. And I think that's great because those are the bags I use the most. But I do like to know whether or not this is doubling up on something that I have something similar to. It's because I want to know if I'm going to be giving another bag competition. I know that might sound silly, but there are some bags that I absolutely love, and I would hate to think that I wouldn't wear them anymore because I got another bag that kind of filled that position. So that's just something that I think is important to take into consideration when you're making the purchase. So my seventh tip is resale value. So I definitely don't think that you should go into a purchase automatically thinking that you're going to resell the bag. But the fact of the matter is, not all bags will fit into your lifestyle. There's definitely been bags that I've had to resell because they didn't fit for me. And I think that's just bound to happen sometimes. You're going to have some great hits, but unfortunately, there's most likely you might have a few misses. So it's good to know, just in general, what the resale value is for this bag on the market. And maybe you'll never end up selling it. Maybe it'll be a forever bag and that will be amazing. But it's just something to consider when purchasing. I always like to know that, peace of mind, if I want to sell this bag in a year from now or so on, if I find out that this bag doesn't work for me, what will I be able to sell the bag for? And even if I won't be able to recoup a lot of my money on the purchase, I still want to know that going into it, just because I think that it's always better to have as much information as possible. So my eighth tip for you to consider when purchasing a luxury handbag is to consider how available is this handbag. And what I mean by that is this a bag that you can readily go out and purchase in the boutique right now? Or is this a seasonal bag? Is it a limited edition bag that would be really hard to get later on? Is this bag discontinued? Would you only be able to find it on the Preloved market? Or maybe it's a really, really sought after bag. Maybe it's the Pochette Métis that you're after and you really think it might be hard to find in the boutique, which it definitely is. So those are all things to consider so that you can come up with a plan. For instance, if you know that this is a seasonal bag, you know you only have a short amount of time to make that decision. So maybe you want to come up with a plan of going in and purchasing it, reserving it, talking to an SA, stuff like that. If it's a bag that's more readily available, you know you can take your time with it, you know you can shop around a little bit. So those are things that I think that you should really take into consideration when you're coming up with a plan to purchase the handbag. My number 9 tip for things that you should consider is, does this bag go on sale? Now, I know a lot of handbags do not go on sale, unfortunately. Chanel, wouldn't that be amazing? Or Louis Vuitton. But there are quite a few bags that do go on sale, and I've gotten some amazing discounts on some handbags in the past. So I think it is something to consider. But maybe you're considering a Saint Laurent bag or a Valentino bag, and maybe you know that sometimes certain stores do have these bags on sale. For instance, oftentimes stores like My Teresa online or Luisa Veriaroma, places like that, Farfetch, sometimes they'll have some blanket discounts or they'll discount certain bags during certain amazing sales. For instance, we just had Black Friday sales and stuff, and I know a lot of amazing bags were on sale. So that's something to take into consideration because you don't want to think, oh man, if I had just waited a month, I could have gotten the bag on sale. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that you should necessarily, wait half a year so you can buy a handbag that you really want, but I do think it's something to consider. If, if Black Friday is right around the corner and you can wait a month or two and see if the bag goes on sale, I think that those are really smart things to do, just because these handbags are so expensive. They're so expensive, and you want to be able to get a discount whenever possible. Okay, so my 10th tip is to always price out the handbag on the pre-loved market. Now, I think that buying pre-loved is a great option. I really do think that going pre-loved whenever possible is great. I think that you can save a lot of money. I really do think that handbags are kind of like cars, where as soon as you drive them off the lot, they go down in value. So I always keep that in mind when I'm shopping. And I know that it doesn't always make sense to go pre-loved. I know sometimes the discount on a certain bag might not be substantial enough for it to make sense for you to buy pre-loved versus in the boutique. But then a lot of times you can get some amazing deals. Now, for instance, I got my Fendi Peekaboo on the Real. I bought this and I got over $1,000 off of it. And when I bought this bag, it came with the price tag still on it. It was brand new, guys. And if I had bought this in the boutique, I would have had to spend a substantial bit more money on it. So I am so glad that I looked around on the pre-loved market and was able to find this. So whenever possible, go and look on the pre-loved market. Just price it out. Is there a substantial savings to be had to make it more desirable to buy it on the pre-loved market? That'll be your decision, but at least you'll have the information. Okay, my 11th tip may seem like a no-brainer too, but I think that you really need to consider, what are you gonna wear this handbag with? And I know a lot of times this doesn't necessarily make sense because it's maybe a bag that of course you're gonna wear with everything, like I said with my Palm Springs Mini, but sometimes there are bags where I've got them home and I'm like, I know I love this bag. I know that I've seen it on other people and it looks amazing, but what am I gonna wear this bag with? And this is another time when Google image search can really be helpful, because it can give you a lot of inspiration of how other people are styling the bag. You can go on Pinterest. There's a lot of ways you can search to see people styling the bag in different ways. But I do think that that is important to think about. You don't want to get the bag home and then think, oh my God, yeah, I love how it looks on all these other people that I saw, but I don't have that type of style. Maybe they have a more edgy style and this is more of an edgy bag and you're more of a classic kind of girl. That's just something to consider, just to maybe have in the back of your mind a couple of outfits that you could see yourself wearing this bag with. My 12th tip to consider is whether or not you think this is going to be a forever bag or not. Now, I don't think that every purchase that you need to make needs to be a forever bag. I think a lot of the times you may not know that. There's definitely, I'm sure, bags that I've purchased that I may have forever and I didn't know that when I went and bought it. But I do think that there are times when you buy a bag and you kind of know that it's going to be a forever bag. So for example, I have my Chanel Classic Flap in the medium large with the gold hardware. And this is definitely a forever bag for me. And I knew that when I purchased this. I purchased this on Fashion File a number of years ago, and I love it. And since I knew that this was gonna be a forever bag, I was even more patient when purchasing it. I wanted to make sure that I had the exact material and hardware and everything that I wanted with this bag. So I knew that I wanted caviar. I was deciding between gold hardware and silver hardware. And I decided that since I wanted to wear this bag as a special occasion and an everyday bag, that I would get it in gold. But that's just something to consider when you're purchasing a handbag. If you know that it's going to be a forever handbag, maybe take a little bit more time when you're making the purchase, maybe really think it out, maybe go and try it on a few different times. I definitely don't think, as long as it's not a seasonal or a limited edition, I definitely do not think that you can really think about a handbag long enough. There's no, I think, time limit of thinking about a handbag before you purchase it. So that's just another thing that I would take into consideration when purchasing a handbag. Now, I think it's okay to buy bags that aren't going to be forever bags too, but I kind of like knowing that when I go into the purchase. So for example, I have my Gucci Marmont wallet on chain and I love this bag. I've done a review previously on this bag. I absolutely love it and I wear it a ton. However, I don't know that I will have this bag in my collection forever. It's a very trendy bag right now. The Marmont line in general is. And I don't necessarily know if I could see myself wearing this 10 years down the road or not. But I knew that when I purchased it. That's actually one of the reasons why I ended up going with the wallet on chain versus the more traditional Marmont flap, because I was able to save a little bit of money by purchasing a wallet on chain versus a full handbag. So that's just something that to take into consideration when you're making the purchase. You know, is this going to be a forever bag? Is it not? And are you okay with that? Okay guys, so we're on to my 13th and final tip, and I know this has been a long video. It's probably been one of my longest ones, so if you've made it this far, let me know in the comment box below. I always wonder how long people can really hold on throughout videos, so let me know. Very interested. But the 13th tip I have for you is something that might seem common sense, but we don't always think about it, and that is this bag really what I want? And what I mean by that is sometimes we have other bags that we've been thinking about maybe, you know, for months or years that we've been saving for, and another bag will just come onto our radar and all of a sudden steal the attention. And it might preoccupy us sometimes and keep us from thinking about this other bag that we've kind of been working towards. And I think that's okay. I'm not saying that you can't be spontaneous and that you shouldn't, you know, do what brings you joy, but I do think that sometimes we really need to stop and think about whether or not the bag you're lusting after right now is really what you want. Another example of when this comes into play is when you may be considering another option of a bag that might fulfill and tick a lot of boxes of another bag that you have in your mind. For example, if maybe you're interested in the Chanel classic flap, but you don't necessarily want to spend that much money. And so maybe you've also been looking at the Gucci Marmont flap and you're thinking about all the different ways you can wear it in the same way, all the different things that they have in common. But then you might secretly know deep down inside what you really want is the classic flap. Now that is the case where I'm saying I think that you should take a step back and really think about, is this what I want? Is this Gucci Marmont flap going to really fulfill all the things that I want, that I know this classic Chanel flap bag will? And if the answer is no, I don't think that you should make the purchase. Because in the past, I know that that's something that I have struggled with, thinking about something in a very practical way, because I tend to do that sometimes of, you know, oh, this bag can take all the same boxes and it fulfills the same need for different occasions that I would be wearing it, but it doesn't necessarily give me the same amount of thrill or love or joy or all those things, and I will end up regretting it later. And that's really what we want to avoid, right? So there's definitely been times in the past where I have bought another bag when I've been thinking about a certain bag and I've come to regret it. So definitely make sure you're thinking about, is this really the bag that you want? Okay guys, that does it for this video. I really do hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment and let me know if there's anything else that you consider when you're purchasing a handbag. I'm definitely still learning as I go. As I said, I made a lot of mistakes. I'm sure I will make further mistakes in the future. Maybe we'll have a second part to this video next year, but yeah, leave me a comment, let me know, and I would love for you to subscribe down below. It would be so great to have you back, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.